Welcome to This Week in Wrestling History.
All right, everyone, welcome to Wrestling History Podcasts. Host as always, Jacob, Ryan.
Nothing funny this week.
No, I dropped the ball this week. We didn't have much time to prep, so I didn't have any funny stuff for the opening, much to everyone's chagrin, I'm sure. So, what are we doing this week?
Something a little different.
Actually, a lot different. We've been better about not saying that every episode now. We used to always say it, but we are doing something different. Kind of throwing back to something that happened just a couple weeks ago with Seth and Braun on Raw.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, so Seth became a double champ, holding the heavyweight title and the tag titles.
So we're going to actually go back and look at the history of double champs in WWE.
Right. We're not going to look at we may bring up a few peripheral things in other places, but we're going to focus predominantly on A, just the WWF, B, just the men's division. We may touch on a little bit of women's stuff. C, predominantly the main card. We may touch on a little NXT here and there.
And it's mostly also going to be main belt or a singles belt mixed with a tag belt.
Right. There have been a few double champs of I have two singles titles.
I mean, everybody knows the Eurocontinental champion.
Right. Our issue there, at least my issue, was when I kind of nixed that part of the whole thing during production was if it's two mid-card belts like the Eurocontinental Championship, one of those titles really doesn't mean anything.
Right.
They kind of become a weird combined mishmash of who cares. Having two belts almost makes having a belt worth less.
Yeah, and one of the other ones, because I know we're not going to hit on it more recently, was Seth being the WWE World Heavyweight Champion. Remember right after they combined the two belts
and the U.S. champ.
Yes,
right.
Because that was when he was coming out in the white and gold gear, and he was
still part of the Authority at that point, right? Yeah,
and he beat Cena to win the U.S. title after Cena had pushed so hard for this U.S. belt to mean something again.
Yeah, and they kind of they flushed that a bit, and it was almost a weird swerve booking thing, which we'll get into some of the weird booking decisions that kind of go along with double champs here and there. Before we jump into that, you want to cover what's actually happening this weekend as we're recording, or do you want to do that at the end of the show?
We can do that now.
All right, producing on air. It's great.
Yeah. So this weekend is a relatively big weekend, as in there's a lot of stuff happening.
Yeah, there's some important things going on. So we have three major shows all happening, I believe, tonight, Saturday, as we're recording, correct?
Yes.
So we have NXT UK.
Their takeover show in Cardiff.
Takeover Cardiff. We have a New Japan British show.
Yeah.
Road to something.
It's some kind of royal something.
Royal, yeah.
It's like one of their first or early times of going to the UK.
Right. New Japan has worked with some other British promotions before, with like where Will Ospreay came from. I know Suzuki held one of the major British belts for a while.
Yeah, him and not Will Ospreay.
Zack Sabre
were fighting over the Rev Pro.
That's what it was, Rev Pro.
British title.
So New Japan definitely has some familiarity with dipping a foot into the British scene, but this, I believe, is their first major pay-per-view to come from one.
It's called Royal Quest.
Royal Quest, there we go.
And it's essentially the Takeover Cardiff logo, except it says Royal Quest on it.
Well, yeah, when you go over to the UK, you find out they have a lot of commonalities running through things, some common threads.
Yeah.
So that British coat of arms is a strong one.
Yeah. And the other big thing that's happening tonight is All Out.
Yes, which, again, if people have kind of been paying attention, I've been kind of turning a bit as far as AEW goes, and they really need this to be a good show in my book.
Yeah, I'm still of the point where they haven't had enough for me to make a solid decision one way or the other yet.
That's fair, and that's why I'm trying to stay somewhat objective about things and give them the benefit of the doubt. It's just a lot of the stuff they have produced, it's trending in a direction I don't care for.
Well, in my argument to you, which most of these people that are listening don't know, but you and I have talked about it plenty of times, is one that may very well change once they have their weekly show going.
Right. They are in a weird place right now where they don't have a lot of exposure. They don't have a lot of events to really give a great idea of what direction they're going in. So human nature being, I'm going to fill in the blanks where I see them, and my mind goes to a place where a little cynical on things, and it's filling in some blanks, and it's not in their favor, essentially.
Right. I'm hoping that will change once they have their weekly show, because these one-off pay-per-views, there's not really a way to build any kind of stories. It's always a moment at the end or somewhere in the pay-per-view that then we have to worry about remembering a month and a half later when we have a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
There's no real connection moving through the whole thing.
Right, exactly. They may very well not having anything really intentionally trying to be a thread carrying through things besides, Young Bucks and the Lucha Brothers and maybe MJF and Cody being a bit of a thing. They have a few things, but maybe I'm looking into things that aren't really supposed to be connected, but I don't know. I feel like they've damaged Kenny from where he was a year ago in New Japan, and that bothers me. Maybe that's the story they're trying to tell. I think it's a bad way to tell. I think it's a bad story to tell right now.
Well, and I watched a couple of their little promos Kenny and Moxley were attempting to do before Mox got hurt.
Well, sick.
Yeah. Hurt because of the elbow injury, too.
Yeah, elbow infection.
So they ended up... One of the things that Kenny was talking about in this, it was kind of like a faux shoot style.
I think I saw a little of it, and it came off really hokey, kind of, actually.
Well, one of the things that he had talked about, which would have made sense, was he was like, Moxley, you tried to be me. You were trying to do all the stuff that I did once I got to a bigger stage or left something behind. And then they had a clip of Moxley at one point saying, Kenny's not the same man that he was. He doesn't have the killer instinct anymore like I still do. Which...
Yeah, that's kind of my complaint, so...
But, that would have been a fine story if we were going to get that match.
Yeah, that's a whole thing in of it itself now.
I mean, Kenny versus Pac, I'm not upset that I'm getting that. Could it have been better? Absolutely.
Right. Kenny versus Pac would be a great match if that's what they had been building towards. It's not more interesting than Kenny versus Mox.
Like at the press conference for AEW, if Kenny had the stare down with
Pac instead of Jericho.
Yeah. Or instead of Pac staring down Hangman.
Right.
If that had started off back then, or if Pac had been added into the AEW world title picture.
Yeah, it's also a rough thing where, 2 out of their 3 or 4 major programs have already gone kind of belly up.
Right. For reasons that they can't control.
Reasons beyond their control. It was just, we were supposed to already have an AEW champ.
Right.
We were already supposed to... we were supposed to have Kenny versus Mox for this show. That was something they'd been kind of planning since day one.
Mm-hmm.
And we were supposed to have Hangman versus Pac for the first champion, and then that didn't happen. And it's just, I understand things happen. You kind of have to change on the fly. It's just, I don't know. None of their changes on the fly feel like they've been for the better.
Yeah, but like I said, I'm still hopeful because it's an alternative.
Yeah, I want them to do good. I don't think I'm hopeful. So,
and
all right.
It's going to be a better alternative than the alternatives we have now.
Yeah, fair. So what's going on with Royal Quest? Anything interesting going on that card?
I don't think so. I don't think that there's any major events happening.
Yeah, I'd about to say I don't believe there's anything too terribly major going on right there.
There hadn't been any major
Probably
news noteworthy.
Right, I'm guessing
coming out.
Ibushi probably has the briefcase up for grabs against someone because that's kind of typically what happens this time of year after the G1.
All right, so here's the matches that we have for it. Taguchi, Shota Umino, and Ren Narita versus Roppongi 3K in a 6-man match. Kota and Juice versus Yujiro and Hikilo. So
Okay.
he doesn't have the briefcase up.
Oh, okay.
Interesting. We have Chaos, Will Ospreay, and Robbie Eagles versus Bullet Club. Ishimori and El Phantasmo.
El Phantasmo's pretty impressive. I don't know if you've seen much of him.
He's really good, and I really like Ishimori. He was solid when he was in Impact as an X Division champ. Then we have LIJ, Naito and Sonata versus Bullet Club, Jay White and Chase Owens.
Meh.
God, but Bullet Club is across this entire card.
It's kind of your typical New Japan non-main show thing is a lot of tag matches, so
Yeah.
that's fine. They usually are good, but
GOD versus Aussie Open, Kyle Fletcher and Mark Davis
okay.
for the tag titles.
Okay.
Ishii versus Kenta for the never openweight title.
Now that
Seems like it could be
that
fun.
has legs.
Yeah. Zack Sabre Jr. versus Tanahashi for the British heavyweight title.
Me.
And Okada versus Minoru Suzuki for the IWGP World Heavyweight title.
That's interesting. Suzuki's not going to win, but that's
Nope.
interesting.
Oh, so this makes more sense. The Aussie Open,
Uh-huh.
was
there a tournament or something?
there was a bracket tournament
Okay.
for people from Rev Pro to face
So
GOD.
it's a little bit of a Rev Pro versus New Japan kind of thing. Yeah. So, as we said earlier, they've had a working relationship for a while now. So, over on the TakeOver Cardiff side of things, I'm going to read off the matches. You tell me what's interesting about them because you know more about NXT UK than I do.
Yes, I do.
All right. So, first up, we have a women's UK match for the title. Champ Toni Storm versus Kaylee Ray.
I like Toni Storm. She's really good. I haven't seen too much of Kaylee Ray.
Did
but
she win the second Mae Young?
Toni Storm?
Yeah.
No,
that was EO.
Yes.
Okay.
She's the one that took the belt off of Rhea Ripley.
Okay.
So Rhea was the first champ, and Tony's had it for a little while now. They're kind of doing almost a Pete Dunne style thing where they give it to Tyler Bate. Pete Dunne then holds it for a really long time.
Okay.
Pretty much the same thing.
All right. Next up, we have... I'm going to save that match for last. Next, we have a triple threat tag match for the UK Tag Championships. Have your champions Zach Gibson and James Drake versus Mark Andrews and Flash Morgan Webster versus Gallus, which is apparently the team of Mark Kofi and Wolfgang.
Mark Coffey.
Mark Coffey.
Yeah. Gallus has been kind of like a pseudo heel. They're the tweener team.
Okay.
Flash Morgan Webster and who was it? Mark Andrews.
Mark Andrews, yes.
They're definitely the faces coming into this.
Okay.
I really like Flash Morgan Webster. He comes out looking straight out of the like Beatles '60s era.
Huh.
So he's got
So he's real mod looking.
Yeah, he's got the oval glasses. He's got the long green trench coat kind of thing. It's an interesting gimmick.
Okay.
But the tag champs, they are still the first tag champs. They haven't lost the belts yet.
The NXT UK champs don't change hands much.
No, they don't. Which I don't know if that's like a UK thing. Like, do people hold the belts for a really long time
I don't know.
over there?
Or is it just that they are not? They don't have a ton of people that they're willing to put titles on. Unsure.
That should be a fun match.
All right, we have a singles match: Travis Banks versus Noam Dar.
I mean, Noam Dar is pretty good, but I don't know Travis Banks.
Fair enough. We have a last man standing match between Dave Mastiff and Joe Coffey. Okay. And then finally, we have our championship match. We have our champ Walter versus the first ever UK champ Tyler Bate.
That should be fun. There's a really big size difference there.
Right. Tyler is smaller but super strong, and Walter is just huge and menacing.
Yeah. I think that'll be fun. I don't foresee them taking the belt off Walter already.
Right. He just won it off Pete Dunne, I want to say, maybe like 3-4 months ago?
Yeah, at the last UK takeover.
Okay. So, got all that coming up, and then let me pull up the card for All Out real quick, and we can discuss that, and then move on to Double Champions.
There's a lot happening for title implications for All Out. I know they have something with the tag titles.
So there's a ladder match for the AAA tag belts, but okay, here we go. Our matches, I'm going to read them in reverse order. Holy crap, this is a big card.
Yeah.
All right, so we have a 6-man tag match. We have Luchasaurus, Jungle Boy, and Marco Stunt versus SCU.
You know who Marco Stunt is, right?
No.
He's the one with no legs.
Oh. Okay. That's a thing that's happening, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, give me more Luchasaurus, for sure.
That again, so that's something that is probably been built up on being the elite somewhat, but not really probably part of their main programming.
No, but again, more Luchasaurus.
Yep. Next up, we have Private Party, which is Isaiah Cassidy and Mark Quinn versus Angelico and Jack Evans.
That should be fun.
That'll probably just be a fun little tag match. I'm not expecting amazingness, but goodness.
I hope that their stuff is a little more ironed out.
Yeah.
I mean, you know my issues with...
Yeah.
So
Angelico and Jack Evans, yeah.
Yeah, their stuff is very high offense, like
but
high
it's a little
flying
sloppy.
offense. It's sloppy and it takes a lot of setup, which
well, that's what I mean by sloppy, is that it's not tight.
it exposes too much.
Yes. All right, next up is the first match I really care about here, is Riho versus Hikaru Shida.
Oh, that's going to be so good.
I am so high on Hikaru Shida. She's so good.
Well, and you know,
and Riho's really good as well.
Whoever wins this goes to face the winner.
We don't know that yet. That's what I'm hoping.
No, they've announced that.
Oh, good.
So whoever wins this match faces whoever wins our Casino Battle Royale.
Isn't that what I was saying should happen? I said that
Yes.
weeks ago.
Yes.
Okay.
So
all right.
see, they're
Yay. Okay.
They're turning.
We're on the same page, maybe. All right. Next up, speaking of the 21-woman Casino Battle Royal, winner receives a match for the inaugural Women's Championship scheduled for AEW on TNT on October 2nd.
Yep. So that whoever wins between Shida and
Riho
faces
the winner of this
on the very first show, which should be kind of cool.
So I'm guessing it's going to be Britt.
I would hope so.
I'm assuming.
Britt versus Hikaru Shida.
Yes, please. Sure. Yeah.
Give me a trilogy of that.
Sure. All right. Next up is the Cracker Barrel Clash. Darby Allin versus Joey Janela versus Jimmy Havoc, which will be kind of a hardcore thing.
Yeah, I can only assume so, but it's one of those that is I'd be interested to see all of those characters together.
Yeah. Next up, you're going to have to translate this one for me. Escalera de la Muerte for the AAA World Tag Team Championship. Just a ladder match, isn't it?
Ladder death match.
Oh, okay. Lucha Brothers versus the Young Bucks, which, yes, please.
Yeah,
Yep.
all day.
Yep, we're fine here. Next is the Ryan complains about this every time he possibly can tag team match of the Best Friends versus the Dark Order.
Best friends, best friends, best friends.
Yeah, they're going to lose.
I know, but I want them to win so bad.
Because we give the crappy, awful, fat, and untalented tag team of the Dark Order the bye for heel heat.
Well, only one of them is fat.
Well, no, they're fat and untalented. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
The fat guy's fat and the untalented guy is untalented.
I thought both of those were coming from the fat guy because
I mean, the fat guy also is untalented, but there's fat and untalented. Sorry, hate them. They suck. Then, yep, our singles match of Pac versus Kenny.
Cool, but
Nifty, but it's a letdown in the grand scheme of things.
I mean,
it's a letdown.
If we're going to get anybody to sell the pseudo strong style that Kenny does, Pac would probably be it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It'll be fun to watch.
Yeah,
but
I'm sure it'll be a good match, but yeah. All right, and then finally we have the singles match for the inaugural AEW World Championship, Adam Page versus Chris Jericho.
I think this will be a good match. I don't think it's going to be one of Jericho's best matches.
I think Page is fine. I think Page is on his way up. Jericho's on his way down, and the problem is I don't think it's a great time for them to be crossing. I don't think.
I was just about to say the same thing. I think it's a little late in Jericho's career, and I think it's a little early in Hangman's career.
Right. I don't think either of them is in the position to elevate the other anymore.
Yeah.
I think Jericho can go in there and have just a fine match with someone that's already top level. I think Page could probably put on a good show with someone that's better than him, and he could probably pull himself up to that level with their help.
Yeah.
I don't think Page can elevate Jericho at this point, and I don't think Jericho can elevate Page at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it ideally makes sense for them to have this match with essentially the guy that's going to be the face of the company.
Yeah.
And the big name that they brought in.
Right. It all makes sense. But for some reason, there's an air of to it.
Yeah. I mean,
like, for some reason, I just can't help but feel like, really? This is...
I'm
really?
I'm at the point where I don't know where they're going to go with it.
They're going to go Jericho.
But are they?
Yes.
You're 100% certain?
Yes.
See, I could see them going with Hangman, though.
If they don't go with Jericho, then I don't know. I will do something on the next show and eat my words. But they're going with Jericho.
I could see them going with Hangman purely to... And I could see it kind of like with Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate. Give Hangman the belt for a little bit. And
for
then,
20 minutes?
Yeah, and then all of a sudden something happens in the match that causes Hangman to win it. Hangman, being the prideful guy that he is, defends it on the first ever TV show and it changes hands.
I don't know. For whatever reason, I'm not feeling it. But speaking of champs, shall we talk about some double champs?
Sure.
All right.
Maybe we'll do a show later on come next year when some AEW double champs are a thing.
That might be a little early for that. All right. So,
do we want to start at the top?
Yes. So let's go back in time to the very first ever double champ.
Now, it's kind of shocking that this guy is the first ever double champ.
Right. Even more shocking, honestly, to me, is the time gap between the next ones. But
yeah. So, first ever double champ is in 1980, and it's Bob Backlund as the WWF champ and the WWF tag team champ.
Right, which I didn't know. I never knew Backlund held the tag belts. And apparently he held it for a hot week maybe?
Yeah. But this was in the midst of his
18-year or whatever,
yeah,
his crazy long title
2,000 days something run.
Yeah, with the title, which that was a weird point in history. Unfortunately, I can't obviously speak to this much because even I wasn't alive back in that part of 1980. I don't feel like this has never really been brought up on TV ever.
No.
So I question how important it was. I feel like this was probably more an issue of the Samoans who were the tag champs were maybe leaving, because
I could see that.
didn't they go on to be, or no, that they were not the Samoan SWAT team.
No.
But
This was the original.
right. I would wager something was going on with the Samoans where they couldn't like keep the titles or something, or I don't know, maybe it was some weird hometown thing where they just did it to pop the crowd at whatever live event it was,
Which would make sense for
because everything
80s,
was
80s and 90s WWF.
Yeah, keep in mind everything was a live event back then. There was no such thing as pay-per-view. WrestleMania 1 was still 4 years out.
Yeah.
So a lot of title changes happened back then, and you didn't really know about it. It was just kind of like, oh, someone shows up and they have the belts. Okay, cool. Guess we're going with that now.
Yeah.
Things just happened and no one really knew, and it may have just been to pop the hometown crowd for someone, or because, as we were saying, this is never brought up on TV. It was
We don't hear about it now.
It was never brought up in the mid-90s when Bob Backlund came back and was feuding with Bret Hart.
It was never brought up when Bob Backlund came back and was running around with Darren Young for a little while.
Yeah,
Even if you go back, and WWE has a top 10 video of double champions after Seth won the tag belts recently. This one is not on there.
right. It is literally the definition of a footnote in history.
Yeah.
So,
But hey, it's the first time it happened.
yeah,
so.
that's interesting. So, next we jump all the way to 1994, and in something we talked about just last week.
Yeah, a 14-year time gap between the next time two belts are on one person.
Right. So, definitely the tag belts, because
Anytime a single person has held physically two different belts.
right. So that was part of the reason that I wanted to skip over Ultimate Warrior's win at WrestleMania 6, I believe, where he won the heavyweight championship while being the IC title holder. It's because he had to give up the IC belt the next day.
Yeah, because there was a rule that WWF had up until...
At the time, yeah.
I want to say it was up until like 96 or 97, something like that.
Until it was convenient.
Yeah, where somebody could not hold two singles belts because they were two different divisions.
Right, which was a load. It was because back in the 80s, when you only had 3 different titles, being the heavyweight, IC, and tag belts,
Right.
you couldn't involve someone in that much television and tie up that belt because it was needed elsewhere. So yeah, I don't really count that as a dual title reign because he did not independently defend each title.
Right. It was literally he won the belt and then the next night.
Yeah, well, the next show he had to give it up, and there was a tournament then to determine who the next IC champ would be. So.
Yeah, and again that lasted for a little while. I'm pretty sure Shawn had to do the same, or Diesel had to do. Somebody had to do the same thing at some point again after that, and then they got rid of the rule for it. I don't remember who it was.
I don't think so. I could completely be wrong. I don't think that ever happened, though.
I know there was at least one other time where it happened, going through and putting this little paper together.
All right. So, yes, next up we had Diesel holding the IC belt and the tag belts that we had talked about. They had won the night before SummerSlam, 1994.
Literally last week's show.
Yep. So go back and listen to that if you want to hear us talk about when Diesel loses his WWE Intercontinental Championship. So he was a dual champ for less than 24 hours.
Yeah.
Maybe 25 hours at best.
All right.
So actually talking about now we're going to get into the era of actual dual champs. I think the idea behind this was really to build Diesel up as a monster. Here's my problem, and we're going to see this going forward a little bit. We really start to make our tag division look like a bunch of chumps.
Yeah, I mean this is kind of the start of it. The only thing is though is that Shawn and Diesel had been tagging together for a while.
Right. The two dudes with attitudes thing.
Yeah. So, like,
It wasn't as bad here, but they were still generally considered two singles stars.
right. I mean, it's not nearly as bad as it is now.
Right.
Where you literally have two guys who have never teamed together, never talked in a segment, and all of a sudden, tag team.
Right. And the other thing that helps here, Shawn was a tag team wrestler for the vast majority of his career at this point.
Right.
He was part of the Rockers. They never, quote unquote, held the championships, except they did, but he was a tag team wrestler, so I always prefer when they kind of, okay, we're going to take our world champ and our world champ challenger, and we're going to get to that a bunch, where, all right, theoretically, these are our two top singles guys. I like when a tag team can beat the two top singles guys because, we're a tag team. This is how we fight. We fight as a team.
We've been doing this a lot longer and a lot better than you.
Right. Just because individually you might be better than me and your partner might be better than my partner, but now we have to work. Now we get to work together. We're better than you at that point. Like, we combine and we gestalt together and become the sum is greater than the sum of its parts. Well, I don't know. I don't remember the line anymore.
I mean, look at it like this. The Young Bucks.
Yes, exactly.
The Young Bucks together could beat anybody on the AEW roster.
Right.
The Young Bucks by themselves, if you take Nick Jackson and put him in a match against Kenny.
By Nick.
Right.
Exactly.
Even though Nick is really good,
yes,
Kenny's going to win.
Exactly. And I like that dynamic. It makes things more interesting. It gives you a little bit of suspension of disbelief of, these guys are better than anyone else when they're together. Apart, but they mesh well together. Because the flip side of that is, hey, if these two random people can kick the crap out of your tag team champs and become the tag team champs, what's that say about your tag division?
Right, exactly.
So, unfortunately, we're going to see a lot of that.
Yeah.
And it causes the tag team titles to just become a prop to further the main story of the heavyweight title, which, how come the heavyweight title can't do that on its own?
Exactly.
Like, it seems needless to me. So, all right, after Diesel being a double champ in 94, we jump to 95, where we have Diesel being a double champ of WWF champion, and Shawn, again, he's now a double champion, being the IC champ, and then they're tag champs.
Which, I could see why they did this as one of their moments where all of their belts are on these two guys.
Right. So this is one of the few times where I don't really mind it. And there was an additional kind of asterisk to this whole thing. The tag team champs were Owen Hart and Yokozuna. And they were in a tag match against Diesel and HBK in a winner-take-all match. So whoever gets, like, say, the pin on Diesel becomes WWF champ.
Right.
If someone pins Shawn, they become IC champ. If Shawn or Diesel pins one of the other guys, tag champs.
Right.
However, Owen wasn't at the building that night, and Davey Boy Smith had to fill in for him. So it wasn't officially the tag champs.
Right. So Owen ended up showing up.
Miraculously, he got to the building.
And came into the match and got pinned. So then the tag belts went to Shawn and Diesel.
Yep. Then the next night on Raw, so Owen, Davey, Yoko, and there may have been one other guy in the faction, but they were all managed by Jim Cornette.
Yep.
And this was either the first or one of the first appearances by Clarence Mason. He was Jim Cornette's lawyer, and he comes out. It was a whole Johnny Cochran OJ thing.
Yeah.
Where he comes out. Owen wasn't part of the match, even though he's one of the tag champs. He wasn't an official participant in the match. He can't be pinned. That's not allowed. That's not legal. So I actually don't mind this one as much because again, these guys have been tag champs before together. These guys are the champ and the IC champ, so that carries a little extra swagger here. And it was done without the official tag team partners. So, okay, maybe these guys don't have the same chemistry.
Right.
It almost became like two thrown together teams, except
one had teamed for a while.
Exactly. They win, and then, the titles get stripped the next night. But first off, it's just kind of a cool visual to have two guys holding all the gold in the company at the time.
Right.
And it did kind of work for the heel tag team to come out and kind of sleazily reclaim their titles without an actual match. And, we never really lost them. And so it helps get them some extra heat. So that does kind of accomplish a goal there. And I think WWE kind of wrote themselves into a corner on that one where...
Yeah, I just don't think that there was a way that they could have booked themselves out of this.
Right. It was like, well, we got to have a title change here somehow. So, well, let's do this.
Guess the tag belts are going.
Right. We'll do the tag belts, and then we'll have, not the tag champs lose the tag belts, and we can just give them right back the next night and move on with ourselves. So, I like that one. Next is one I don't mind again. We jump up to 97. We had British Bulldog and Owen Hart being the tag champs, and British Bulldog was European champ. Owen was IC champ.
I don't mind this one either because it's Bulldog and Owen.
Right. So again, it's guys that, A, they're actually just family.
Right.
And B, they've been together kind of in the same circle for quite a while. They came up through the dungeon together, presumably.
And I'm assuming at some like one-off shows here and there, they've probably teamed together before.
Oh, I'm sure.
So it's not a surprise that the two of them ended up winning against the Smoking Guns to take the tag belts.
Right. And this was just kind of building up the Hart Foundation as well as kind of like a faction. So,
which would make sense if you're going to have these two guys plus Brett and Neidhart
and Pillman.
Oh, that's right. Pillman was part of it at this point.
Yes.
If you're going to have a team with that kind of star power, I guess.
Right. And again, it wasn't a case of... So I'm going to refer to it as the odd couple pairing where you have the heavyweight champ and his challenger. Oh, we don't get along. We're fighting over the main belt. And surprise, we got thrown together in a match against the tag champs.
Right.
They do that a lot, and I always dislike it.
It happened a lot more often in like the mid to late 2000s.
Yeah. Teddy Long did it a ton, I think.
Yeah.
Where, we're going to have a tag team match against these two people that hate each other. Paul Heyman was another guy that did that a lot. If you go back and look at ECW, there was a good bit of that.
You two don't like each other? Well, too bad. You're going to have to team up and face the tag champs.
Exactly.
Like, oh, no.
But in this case, these two guys didn't hate each other.
Right.
They weren't your main title holders either, so it's not like we were necessarily we weren't using the tag belts as a prop to further the heavyweight championship story. This was a legitimate tag team that won the belts. They just also happened to be two good singles wrestlers and had those belts as well.
Yeah, and it wasn't even like one of them had the main card title. They were both the undercard titles.
Right.
So it was, again, one of those visuals of two guys holding four belts.
Yeah.
But you're still not tying up the main card in this storyline.
Right. All of those belts could kind of have equal-ish billing where they weren't being used as props. They weren't.
Right.
When you have the tag belts playing second fiddle to another title, it hurts the tag division.
Right.
Tag division gets hurt enough as it is being the tag division. And so, okay, so this one was good. Next up was a similar situation. I just don't like it as much. It was 1998. It was the corporation. It was the big boss man having the hardcore champ and the tag belts with Ken Shamrock, who was IC champ and tag champ.
Yeah, and this was actually before the 27 rule had kicked in.
Oh, for the hardcore title, yeah.
Yeah. And like it makes sense kind of as a pairing, but
Yeah, they were basically both hired guns at this point of Vince McMahon.
right. And I don't know. Shamrock wasn't awful as a
No.
wrestler. He wasn't great.
Which is Ken Shamrock was a pro wrestler before he was an MMA fighter,
Yeah.
which is weird to me.
He's apparently coming back to Impact too
Yeah.
at like almost 60 years old.
We don't have it. Do we know who they won the titles off of?
I don't remember.
All right.
It was another like legit team.
And it's about to say, it looks like they lost the belts to Jeff Jarrett and Owen, which is yeah, they were a pair, but that's a weird.
And this pairing of Bossman and Shamrock holding these 4 belts did not last long.
No, good. Oh yeah, Bossman.
Yeah, Bossman loses the hardcore title the next night, and then a month later they lose the tag belts.
Yeah.
So the only one who made out of that was Shamrock, who kept the IC belt, I believe, for another like 3 months after this.
Yeah, this was a rough time for a lot of things, and this just felt like we don't have anything else to do with these belts. Let's just get them tangentially evolved in the main thing, and good enough.
Right.
So,
all right. So
yeah.
The next one.
All right. Next one was the 2-man power trip.
Yep. We jumped to 2001, and it's Stone Cold as the WWF champ and tag champ, with Triple H as the IC champ and the tag champ.
So, this is one where, yeah, I don't care for this much. I get it because
It's not really an odd couple pairing,
right,
but it's also not 2 guys who should have ever teamed together.
right. It's these 2 assholes are running roughshod over the company.
Yeah.
Look at us. You can't stop us. I guess if you're ever going to throw the tag belts on 2 random thrown together guys, this is about the best you can do.
Right.
Because
I mean, aside from having Stone Cold and The Rock team together.
Yes. Because legitimately, they were the 2 biggest singles guys in the company at the time.
Right.
And they were just trying to show that we're this unstoppable. I don't think the tag belts were used as a throwaway prop here. I think all of the titles were kind of used collectively as a prop to show this. So,
yeah,
given that they were kind of on equal footing with everything else, I'm okay with that.
The only plus side to this is that they lost 2 sets of belts the following night. So, Triple H, so they win all the belts at a pay-per-view. Then on Monday, so literally the next night, Triple H loses the IC belt to Kane.
That's an odd one, but okay.
And then they also, immediately following that match, they lose the tag belts to Benoit and Jericho.
Okay, so it was, again, a very quick, brief little thing after it was dominant showing of force.
Hey, look at these guys. These guys are awesome. Oh, now one of them isn't awesome anymore.
So, okay, they do have their limits. Okay. So.
Yeah, and losing the tag belts to Benoit and Jericho kind of makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
I mean, aside from the fact that they're just 2 Canadians.
Right. All right. Next, still in 2001. So that must have been pre-invasion?
Yes.
And now we're post-invasion.
Yes, and I don't remember who this person was tag champ with.
I'm guessing I can tell you. I would assume it's DDP.
Yes, that's right, because this was just after Stalker DDP, I believe.
Yeah.
So we have 2001 coming out of the invasion, maybe in the midst of it.
Yeah.
Because we have Kanyon as the WCW US champion and the tag champ.
Right.
WWF tag champ, I should say.
I'm going to be honest. I don't think either of those titles did anything for Kanyon, and I don't think either of those titles were worth much at the time.
No. No.
There were so many titles because suddenly all of the WCW titles appeared. Well, most of the WCW titles appeared.
WCW had a lot of titles.
Right. So we had, and so did WWE at this time.
Yeah.
So we had U.S. title, WCW world title. We had IC belt. We had U.S. belt. We had
No,
Europe.
there was WWF didn't have the U.S. belt at this time.
No, but WCW did.
Oh, I see what you're doing. Okay,
Yeah.
never mind.
Yep. We had European Championship. Did the TV Championship make it over? Yes, the TV title did come over to WWE.
It came over and then was almost immediately merged.
Right, but it still came over.
Yeah.
We had light heavyweight title. We had cruiserweight title.
Yep.
We had tag belts. We had tag belts.
Yep.
We had hardcore belt. We had no other belt.
Correct, because the hardcore belt didn't actually show up.
Right, the WCW hardcore title
So there
didn't
was,
show up.
11 belts
11 different titles.
to show up between Raw and SmackDown.
And they were sharing talent, so it was the same programs coming through them.
Yep.
That's ridiculous.
I mean, even if
That's absurd.
if we look at Raw and SmackDown now, where they have quite a bit, it's still only the two
Main
main
one.
titles: US IC, tag belts, women's tag belts.
Right. And the
But-
women's tag belts are only one, and then the 24/7 belt. So we have 10 total.
Yeah,
But we also have two wholly separate rosters,
correct.
kind of. So, yeah, there was just so many belts. I don't think any belt felt like it was worth anything for a while there. All right, next up, jump to 2002. Kane, IC champ, wins the tag belts with the Hurricane.
Okay.
Yeah, this was okay, fine, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly don't have too much to say about it. This was Kane being in the middle of being a good guy,
Yeah.
but
This next one I actually like more.
this one, I remember watching this at the time. It was a lot of fun.
So I don't remember watching it, but I like the concept behind it. So next up we had 2003. Eddie Guerrero is U.S. champ, and he's also tag team champs with Chavo.
Yeah, the two of them teaming together was a lot of fun because they had the similar styles,
Right.
but Eddie was, this is going to sound weird, Eddie was the heavy hitter of the tag team.
Yeah, no, that make. I'm between the two of them. That makes sense. So what I really like about this is, first off, they're the Guerreros, so
Right, literally family.
totally makes sense that they work together well.
Right.
It doesn't cheapen the tag team belts whatsoever. And this actually helps make Chavo into a more legitimate kind of, it definitely brings him up the card.
Yeah, when he comes into WWE, WWF at this point still, he probably wouldn't have been mid-card
No, honestly, probably not.
as quick as he was. I mean, he might have gotten there sooner or later.
Right.
But teaming with Eddie while Eddie's holding the U.S. title, they automatically puts Chavo in that same picture.
Right. And I think this is what would go on to help elevate him up into the SmackDown 6 during that era.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So this was kind of like laying that groundwork, showing he's right up there with Eddie, on par with the U.S. champ. And so,
Again, this is kind of making one of the last times that a combination of people holding this many belts together makes everybody look good.
right. Because, yeah, we're about to start going downhill as far as I'm concerned. 2004, Benoit, World Heavyweight Champion, and World Tag Team Champs with Edge.
Edge is still quite a bit away from being in the world title picture.
Yeah, this is definitely early for him. He's definitely kind of mid-card guy still right here.
I'm pretty sure it's the following years when he jumps into the main title picture.
Well, he has to first win the Money in the Bank at Mania and then holds it for almost a full year.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it is almost a full year
No,
in
it
his
is.
first one.
No,
because he wins the belt off of Cena at a New Year's Revolution.
So, literally,
Oh,
I
yeah,
believe
okay.
it was the final
So-
day. I
so
think he
it-
held it for a full year.
It would have been from April-ish of 2004
Yep.
to January of 05, because I'm almost
Well-
positive he wins the belt in 05.
Does he have the briefcase while he's tag champ then? Hang on a second. All right, we're going to look this up
Yeah.
because that's how we produce. We produce on air live. Homework is for suckers.
Edge tag champ with Benoit.
I still think it was later. I still think we're a couple years away from that.
Oh, okay. So yeah, he wins the briefcase in 05.
Okay.
So it's literally
it's after this.
Very shortly after this.
So maybe this whole thing did kind of help bring Edge's value up a little bit. I'm a little hesitant to say that, honestly. I don't think it had much to do with this.
No, I think his run with the Money in the Bank ladder match and then everything after that pushed him into winning the world title.
Edge very much was a solid mid-card guy, winning the IC belt a ton and whatnot. But yeah, I don't believe that this was a huge thing for him.
No. And you know what? I'm surprised that this is the first time Edge has shown up on this list because he's like a 304 time.
I think he's a 14-time tag champ.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Absolutely ridiculous.
All right. 1 year later, we have Batista as the World Heavyweight Champion and the WWE Tag Team Champion.
Yep, and he's teaming with Ray.
Right.
This is after Eddie passes away.
Okay.
And it was during the time that Eddie was going after the World Heavyweight belt in a program with Batista. So they were doing like the feel-good thing, like Eddie's two friends are coming together to beat the mean guys that are Eminem.
Gotcha. So it was a little bit of a feel-good thing, and then it kind of turned into an odd couple thing, right?
Yeah, because Ray would then challenge Batista for the belt.
And then they lose the tag belt, and Batista does not take that well?
No, he doesn't take that well, and he turns on Ray.
So, hey, you got to heel Batista out of the whole thing, so don't love it, not the worst, though. And now we start getting into the worst. I think almost unanimously from here we have odd couples.
Except for NXT.
But, well, that's not main roster, so we'll
and one other one.
Yeah. So 2007, WWE Champion and World Tag Team Champion John Cena with Shawn Michaels.
Yeah, so this is a weird one. Shawn's last shot at the main belt. And he's teaming with Cena in an odd couple thing. Like, you know what? You guys don't like each other, but you're going to have to coexist for a little while, blah, 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 blah.
Yep, we all know that story at this point in time.
The worst part about this is this makes the tag belts look like shit.
Who did they win them off?
I don't remember. It might have been Cade and Murdoch.
Oh,
we were in the midst of that.
Ugh. Well, maybe that was for the best then.
But when they win the belts, they immediately throw them to the side because as Cena's holding up both belts, he turns around to almost getting super kicked. Because Shawn was like, oh, maybe I'll do it, maybe I'll do it. No, I don't think I will.
Meh.
And Cena literally throws the tag belt aside. Shawn never picked his up, and Cena starts yelling at Shawn, is this what you want? As he's holding the WWE title.
Yeah, this is where they really just become props. And that's not what you want for your tag division. You want to at least pretend they mean something.
Yeah, I mean, this is the start of the reason why the Bucks didn't go to WWE.
Yeah. I mean, and you can use them occasionally, but spoiler alert. Oh, Lord. I can speak, really.
You all right?
I'm not through my first coffee yet today. This is only about halfway through the list.
Yeah.
So we're about to get a lot of double champs, and it's a lot of odd couples, and it's a lot of making these things worthless.
Yeah. So we jump to 2007.
No, we stay in 2007.
Oh, yeah. Okay. We jump to the end of 2007.
Oof, 2007, not a good year for the tag belts.
And this is the WWE tag titles, which are the ones on SmackDown. And it's MVP as U.S. champ and tag team champ with
Matt Hardy,
who was feuding with MVP over the U.S. title.
Belt. Yep. And they definitely odd couple this one up.
Yeah, this was almost a laughable title reign, too, because I'm pretty sure Matt Hardy ends up winning the U.S. belt off of MVP, and then the tag team just falls apart and they lose the belts very shortly after.
It's bad enough when your tag belts are playing second fiddle to your World Heavyweight Championship. Now they're playing second fiddle to your undercard championship.
Yeah.
Damn.
Meh at best.
Okay. Oh, I was wrong. This next one is not an odd couple.
This was the one that I was talking about.
Gotcha. Okay.
Uh,
It's Show Miz.
Yeah. So we have The Miz as U.S. champ and the unified tag team champ. This is when we got the big bronze penny-looking belts.
Oh.
Because the Hart Dynasty... Well, no, because Miz and Big Show had both belts still.
Right. They were the unified champs.
The Hart Dynasty ends up winning the belts off of them.
And they get the pennies?
Yes, that's when we get the pennies.
So this one doesn't offend me. It's fine because Miz is U.S. champ. The tag team, well, not the best tag team in the world. It's whatever. It's a Big Show. I guess he makes up enough for the difference in things.
Right. The other thing, too, during the run of all this is they showed up on both shows and just started pulling tag belts.
Yeah.
It was one of those like, our tag team is better than yours. No, ours is better than yours. Let's see who's actually better.
All right. And then next up, we have an odd couple. Again, The Miz in 2011, at the time WWE champion, becomes unified tag team champs with Cena.
Ugh.
Definition of an odd couple pairing.
Because
Boo.
Miz had literally just beaten Cena for the the WWE title at the Mania before this.
Yeah.
And I don't remember who they took. Actually, it might have been the Hart Dynasty that they took the belts off of.
Bleh.
Yeah.
Whatever. All right. Now we actually jump quite a bit to 2017. Adam Cole.
Baby.
Boom.
Adam Cole is the North American champion and the tag team champion.
So
this is a little goofy.
yeah, this one was a little goofy, and he's really only a double champ. It was really on paper more than well, I mean, he did defend the tag belts, but it was more of a freebird rule thing, and this was due to an injury.
Yeah, so he wins the North American title earlier on in the night.
Yep.
And Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly are the tag champs, all part of the Faction Undisputed era.
Yep.
Bobby Fish tears his ACL a couple of weeks before that and can't wrestle.
Right. So they knew he was going to be tag champ during this time because, well, we want to keep the belts on Undisputed Era. Crap, the guy got hurt. They eventually kind of solved this whole thing by having Roddy join.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Roddy joins in the next month or so.
I thought he joined that night.
No, because I don't know if this was at War Games or not. Because remember, they still
right.
had the War Games match where he teamed with AOP.
Oh, right.
Against Sanity and Undisputed Era.
We can go back and check history at some point. But.
Yeah. So they bring Roddy in so that Roddy is now tag team champ with Kyle O'Reilly while Bobby Fish is out.
For a weird bit of time, they actually removed Cole from having ever been a tag champ, but they later went back and added him in as one.
Yeah, because, again, he technically defends the title even though he never physically had it. Or
never won it, yeah. So that was the weird little kind of footnote thing. So
makes Adam Cole the first ever double champ in NXT history.
Yeah. There's that. Does that make him the first Triple Crown winner?
Johnny Gargano is the first Triple Crown winner. Because
really,
Johnny won the NXT
title. Oh, then
title.
Cole won the belt off Johnny.
Correct.
Okay, I thought it was the other way. I thought Cole had it, then Johnny won it, and then Cole won it back. But no, that's right. Okay, that makes sense then. Yep.
So he is the second Triple Crown.
Yes,
champ.
but first double champ.
Correct.
All right, 2018, Seth Rollins, Intercontinental Champion, plus Raw Tag Team Champ with Dean Ambrose.
Yeah, and this was literally the beginning of Bad Guy Dean.
And it was pretty much the end of Dean in WWE.
Yeah, it was Bad Guy Dean.
It was the beginning of the end.
Then Bad Guy Dean leaves, and now we're back to John Mox.
Yep. So this IC champ and tag champ, that's we've said that's fine.
Yeah, because especially at this point, it was in the midst of the Shield thing.
Right. I'm about to say, if anything, the tag belts were actually the more important title. Well, I take that back. The tag belts were on par with the IC belt. They were on the same level.
Yeah. This
was also during one of our dark days of Brock being the AFK champ.
Yeah, and this is also after Roman announces that he has leukemia and has to leave.
Right. So, had some feel good. Brock's MIA IC belt basically is the main belt.
Yep.
But Seth acted like the tag belts were just as important to him, so good for that. That helps bring their value up a bit.
Yeah, Seth has always done a pretty good job at making those tag belts feel important.
Yeah, so, all right, next up. I mean, it's not. So this is our one non-tag team thing on here.
Yeah, and the only reason I feel like it should have been on this list is purely because it's Becky Two Belts.
Becky Two Belts, yes. 2018. Becky. Wasn't it 2019?
No, it was 20.
No, it was this year. It was Mania this year.
Okay. The list I had listed it at 2018, so.
Yeah, that's 2019. Definitely 2019. Becky Two Belts.
So either way, Becky wins the Raw and SmackDown tag titles and.
No.
Or Raw and SmackDown women's belts.
There you go.
I've finished my cup of coffee, so I don't have an excuse.
You got no excuses on this. I'm not alone. Yay. Yeah, I mean, that's honestly, it was a great visual. They were both the main titles. I don't think it didn't diminish either one by any means. Honestly, the women's division split between the two shows was a little weak anyways. So,
yeah,
this was fine. This was completely fine.
Yeah, and also having it happen as the first
women's Mania main event.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you put the women's match as the main event of the biggest show of the year.
Yeah.
And now you have somebody who, as far as we were concerned at the time, deserved the belts, deserved more than what she had.
The only ding against this whole thing was Asuka got screwed.
Yeah. But if it comes out with Becky winning both belts and we get the birth of the man,
the ends justifies the means.
Right.
So, all right. Final entry on the list here. Seth Rollins, the reason that we actually did this episode, WWE World Heavyweight Champion and WWE Raw Tag Team Champion with Braun Strowman.
Universal Champion.
No.
Whatever.
Yep, Universal, sorry.
Another odd couple pairing, but they did it a little bit differently because Braun came to Seth's aid when it came to the club showing up.
It's an odd couple, but like a best friend's odd couple. So Seth and Braun are going to be going against each other. I hope they don't randomly turn Braun for no reason. Don't make him into the next big show. Don't turn him for no reason.
No, and they've been doing okay with it so far. Like, they had the little video package of them, like, hey, man, you don't have anybody to face you for the Universal belt. I think I deserve it. Okay, cool. I'll give you that match. They shake hands, and that's it.
Please, yeah, just carry on with that. Give me a face versus face fight. That's totally fine with me. Have them, like, you know what? You got it this time. Or honestly, have the club interfere again and cause the whole thing to be a schmoz and want their tag belts back. Like,
yeah,
just don't turn Braun for no reason.
No, and I don't think they can, because I think the next program that's going to end up happening is a Braun versus Fiend, which
Braun versus Fiend.
So it'll end up being Braun versus Fiend to get Fiend into main title picture.
I don't like that right now.
I don't either.
It's way too early for the Fiend to be doing that.
Yeah, we need Fiend to demolish a few more people before he demolishes the big guy.
Though, some Firefly Funhouses of Bray being like, hey, Braun, remember me? It's your good buddy Bray. We used to hang out.
Right.
Yeah.
That could be fun. But I think we need to have a couple more stepping stones before we get to him facing Braun.
Yeah, because I don't want to sacrifice Braun to the Fiend right now.
Unless we turn Braun into a bad guy that teams with the Fiend.
No, the Fiend doesn't need it. It weakens the Fiend.
True. Or Well, why don't we have the Fiend or Braun be one of the Fiend's followers again?
No, because it still weakens them.
Well, they don't have to team.
No, I don't like it. Because then it either weakens Braun or it weakens the Fiend, and
there's not really a reason to weaken Braun at this point,
right?
Because
Exactly.
he's fucking Braun Strowman,
right? One of them benefits, one of them pays for it, and that's
there's no way around that at this point.
Don't need that right there. So, I mean, I get the concept. I like that there's history there. I don't think enough people benefit from it,
Right?
and I don't think either of those guys. I don't think either of those guys, honestly, right now can afford paying for it either. Braun's just being rebuilt after having a real bad 2018.
Well, and the other thing too, I read an interview that Braun had done where he actually talked about a sit down that he had with Vince.
Mm-hmm.
Like they were at a Raw or something like that, and it was in the middle of a production meeting, and Braun texted Vince that he was feeling not good about his position and started to look elsewhere. Vince canceled the production meeting and pulled Braun in and met with Braun for an hour.
So there you go. And they just don't need to damage Braun like that. You could damage him and eventually recover him again, but it's going to get harder and harder each time you do that.
It's too early to damage him. If you're going to damage him, you need to wait a little bit longer. It needs to be after a title run of some kind.
Yes.
And not a tag title run of some kind.
Right. So,
I mean, technically, Braun never lost the tag belts.
Right. He just kind of surrendered them because he refused to have a partner.
Well, his partner was also 10.
Well. All right. So I think that feels like about a show.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything else we need to talk about because we did that beforehand.
Yep. So hopefully those shows tonight go well and we have something to chit-chat about next week.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot to either A, watch or B, read about as it's happening. So
all right, everyone. Enjoy the weekend full of fun stuff.
The wrestling-filled weekend.
Yes. And we'll be back next week. More history.